Hey, good morning everybody. Today we're going to switch out a clock spring for a 2010 Jeep Liberty. The clock spring is located right underneath the airbag, and what the clock spring does is it allow electricity or a power current to travel from the steering wheel through to the electrical system. And what it is an electrical ribbon that is wrapped in a circular motion, and this is what it looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to install this today. A couple of tools. What you're going to need a 13 millimeter socket, a Phillips screwdriver, a pick tool, and a T25 and a T20 Torx wrench. Also, a mirror is helpful. Now, the very first thing you want to do is make sure that you disconnect the power source, which is the battery in this case. And the reason why we are disconnecting the battery is because we don't want any surprises with the airbags. So the reason why we're switching out this clock spring is because, and I don't have the key on right now, but on the dashboard it shows that there is no power to the airbag, the cruise control, or the horn at this point. You're going to need to take your T20 Torx wrench, and you're going to need something long like that, because let me see if I can get up under here to take off the shroud. Let's see, we got to get way up in here to get that screw out. Okay, so you're going to need something long. You're not going to be able to use just a T20 on a magnetic tip for a drill. You're going to actually need something with a long shank to get that started. So in a 2010 Jeep Liberty, you have that screw and that screw, and then once you loosen those out, that takes the shroud off of the column there, and then you can get behind the steering wheel with a pick tool, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, to remove the airbag and the steering wheel. So here we go. We're taking the first screw out. There it is. Put that right there. We'll take the second one out. The reason why I'm doing this video on the 2010 Jeep Liberty is because I couldn't find any videos with this type of Jeep. Everything was from the Wranglers, and which they're all pretty much the same. I think they use the same clock spring, but I just wanted to show you this one particularly. So I'm sorry, there are 3 of those screws. So 1, 2, and then there's one more right here. Okay, see that up in there? We're going to get that one. So there are 3 holding that shroud on. So the hardest thing I'm finding to do is, once we got those screws out, the hardest thing I'm finding is to position the camera so that you can see everything that I'm doing. I'm trying to get this out right now. Unlocking the steering wheel so it moves freely. The top came off. The top is off. And let me get the bottom off now. So you got to pop it out over the key, the ignition, which I'm having a hard time. I don't know why. Probably because I need a little tool in there. All right. I'll get back to you in a second. Okay, got it popped out. There we go. Shroud is off. All right, so I'm using the mirror now, and you see that little black clip? All right, we got to slip that off over that metal, for lack of a better term, the metal part that keeps it clipped. And there's 3 of these, and this is where you're going to use your hook tool. And it's really hard for me to try to show you how to hold the flashlight there, which I have a flashlight right now, and then work that pick tool through there. But I'm going to try to do the best I can. Okay, so I have the hook tool in there. You can see it. Now I'm just going to pull that off. Oh, if I can. There. Okay, it's off. See, it's gone now. And then we do that for the other two. One on the right side, and then there's one underneath. Okay, I know I said at the beginning that we should disconnect the battery, and that's true, but I cannot get this bottom one undone unless I turn the wheel. So I had to start the Jeep, and I'm going to turn the wheel enough to probably about, I don't know, like 20 degrees, so that I could reach that one right there. Other than that, it gets trapped behind the clock spring. Okay, I got that. I'm going to straighten out the wheel again. Now I only have one more to do, and that one's going to be on the right side. I will turn the car off, and now I'm going to disconnect the battery. Okay, battery has been disconnected. I'm going to turn the key on just to drain anything that might be in the system. Okay, mirror in place. You're going to see probably a better picture right now. Let me see if I can lighten that up a little bit. Apparently I can't lock that in. Anyway, I'm gonna get my hook tool in there and pull that last clip. There. So, by trial and error, here's what I discovered as you're trying to pop those clips. You need to keep an outward pressure on your airbag, because those clips want to re-clip themselves. All right, this is what it looks like. We're going to disconnect these wires here in a second. Give me a second. And disconnecting them by pushing down on those. You can't see it. Let's get the focus going. Those little tabs with the ridges on it, there's one on both sides. You got to squeeze those together, and it should come right off. Just like so. There's one. And we're going to pull the second one off. Whoops! There we go. All right. There's your airbag. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 13 millimeter and undo that bolt right there. All right, I found out I needed to add an extension on this so that I could get it to the wheel. There we go. Okay, we broke it loose. Now we're going to put it back in there. So if the steering wheel's stuck, and we're just going to, a couple of threads, and I got to pull it, I just don't want everything to fall apart. So we're going to need to disconnect. Let me see, let me get a little tool in there. I'm going to pull this off. There, got that popped. Now we're going to pull the steering wheel. By the way, there's where the clips, so those metal, and you're going to see them right here. Here they are. These, that's what I was undoing from the back side with the pick tool. They just slip right over these mounts here, and they clip on. Okay, so when we put the steering wheel back on, we're just going to push it right over that, and they lock back in. All right, so we got that going on. Take the screw out, and then let's see how this comes. I think there was, I'm going to have to work this loose a minute. Okay, so it might take a little bit of an effort, and I finally worked it loose. I got the screw back in there just so, boom, when it pops, as you're wiggling it back and forth, it doesn't come flying into your face. Okay, so we're taking the bolt out. Put it right in there. We will now take the steering wheel off, and here's your clock spring, which we're going to replace. We'll put the steering wheel down there for now. There's the new clock spring, just like that. All right, so the 3 screws holding your clock spring on here is this one right in front. Right here, you got one right back there, right there, and then one, let's see if I can get to it. You can see where the T-handle is right there. Right there. So we'll take these all out. We'll remove them one by one. All right, now we got all the screws out. Now the next thing you're going to do is disconnect the electrical connectors. There's one right here in the back, as you can see it right there. Then there's 3 underneath. Let me see. You got those 2 and then 1 right over here. Okay, so we're going to disconnect those. Okay, they have been disconnected, and there you go. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the turn signal indicators. Okay, so in order to do that, there's a Phillips head there and one on the other side, so we'll take those off. All right, so we have our Phillips screwdriver. We'll take this screw out first. Take the one out on the other side. Hopefully you can see this video well enough. I'm not really in a position to have a tripod or anything like that. And then these just come, they just, let's see if you can see it that way. They just slide off your clock spring, right? Boom, just like that, there. Now, we're gonna take the brand new clock spring here. And the first thing I need to tell you is, I don't know, for lack of a better term, stabilizer pins or whatever. This will keep your clock spring from rotating, and you don't want it to rotate because there's a ribbon inside of here. I'll have to show you probably when I take this thing apart. But there's an electrical ribbon inside coiled up, and if you don't keep that positioned right, and if it turns a little bit, and then you put it back on, let's say if it does a full rotation, when you're actually driving your car and you're making a hard turn, you'll snap that ribbon inside. Okay, so you want to make sure that that's positioned, and we're going to put it all back together and that's one of the last things we're going to pull is that lock pin. So putting this back together, as you can see right here, that little deal slides right into that channel. Okay, we're locking this all back in. Okay, you want to make sure that these wires tuck right up underneath this little ridge here so they don't get pinched, right? There you go. And tuck them right up underneath that ridge before we put it together. We're going to put the screws back in. Okay. All right, I put all the screws back together. The next thing I do is we're going to plug all of those connectors back in. Those 2 will go here, here, and then that third one right there will go there, and then that last one up top there will go right there. Okay, so we'll plug those in. Okay, so we got the wires plugged in. We got to do the last one right here, which it's hard to film this and do this at the same time, but hopefully you guys get the idea. Okay, there. Wires are hooked up. All right. So we got that all screwed back in. Next thing is we're going to hook up the airbag, but I do want to make a correction. So throughout this job, I did not need the T25 Torx wrench. Everything was a T20 on this job, okay? So just want to make that note. The other thing is we're going to hook up these the airbag. So the last 2 connectors, we got yellow, black, right? Easy enough. We're going to plug those in. See if I can do this. I'm going to have to set the camera down. Okay, but before we do the airbag, let's do the steering wheel, okay? Okay, so we fed those wires from the clock spring through the opening here in the top. Feed those through the airbag wires. Then we get that steering wheel on. Just slide right in there like so. Okay. Okay, now we can put our 13mm back in. Okay. Now we're going to hook up the airbag. Okay, as I said earlier, pretty simple. Yellow to yellow, black to black. And let's see if I can actually do this while filming. It only goes in one way, so you can't mess up. You got that little hook thing right there. Fits right down into, whoops, right there. So it's a match, okay? So let's see what we can do. I think before we do that, we can go ahead and pull these clips because everything's locked in. We just squeeze this tab together and then it comes right out. We're gonna plug the connector back in. That's locked in, and then we're gonna do the airbags. Okay, they're hooked up. Now, we're gonna slide these right over those mounts there, and it should go right in. Okay, it's all locked in. There we go. Now we're going to hook the battery back up after we put the shroud back on. All right, got the battery hooked all back up. We're going to go ahead and start it and see if the horn and the airbag light goes off. There's the airbag light right there. Up. That's off. Horn? Yep, horn's working. So there you go, guys. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and a share. Hopefully that helped you guys out today. Thanks for watching.